membership organization. We've been in existence since the late 1960s. As such, we represent the manufacturers, the innovators through research, invent and develop medicines and technologies, right? And as much as there are these manufacturers, even the local representatives are members of KAPI. As we stand, KAPI is an industry voice for about 29 companies that we have. And this unified voice that we have as we grow, the main agenda is promoting efficiency in the pharmaceutical industry for improved access to high quality, safe and effective medicines, health products and technologies. These products and technologies that are used for diagnosis, prevention and treatment of diseases. How we work, KAPI's work revolves around policy and regulatory advocacy on matters that influence access to medicines, health products and technologies in the country. As such, we work through our, I would say, 6 key subcommittees, which fall under the executive committee. I have the honor and privilege today to stand on behalf of our Pharmacovigilance subcommittee, and myself at KAPI, I am the chair of this subcommittee. On my normal days, I work with Bayer East Africa as the pharmacovigilance country head for East, West, as well as Central Africa. And I've been in this field of pharmacovigilance for some 19 years plus now, having been a regulator before and now moving on to the industry side. And I would say that I find this area increasingly interesting. So why are we here today? Today marks a very special day. Today, the 17th of September, 2020 is the second birthday, I would say, for the World Patient Safety Day. World Patient Safety Day started last year. That was our very first, should I say, birthday. And then today is the day when we are celebrating this as our second birthday. The theme for this year, and rightfully so, is based on the current pandemic that we are going through. We all appreciate the huge challenges that you and I have gone through. Nevertheless, our frontline workers, our true soldiers, our healthcare workers are out there facing this on our behalf. And yet, they are on duty and looking after the same patients that you and I represent or are, right? Our families fall ill, you and I fall ill, and it's the same healthcare worker who is out there fighting to look after us as well as his or her own self. So the theme for this year, as set by the World Health Organization, is health worker safety, a priority for patient safety. The slogan is safe health workers, safe patients, and the call for action. And interestingly, that today's key theme that we are having at KAPI is also a call for action. And here the WHO's call for action is speak up for health worker safety. Under this, and I mentioned to you that today is the third day. So since Tuesday, KAPI has taken up this agenda and we are leading from the front where we also care for our healthcare workers. We also care for our patients. So on Tuesday, for those who are with us, our first webinar was on the role of regulatory agencies, where we talked about health products and technologies, looking at the quality, safety, as well as efficacy. And then yesterday, we had an equally interesting session with our professional societies and associations. And today, to put the cherry on the cheesecake, is where we are saying, let's put our healthcare workers' safety first. And through that, let's have a call for action. I will be your host today. And in my closing remarks, I would say KAPI is vibrant on social media as well. These are our handles, so please take note of this. Please like us, please follow us, and that way you will get a lot of updates. Apart from these 3-day webinars that we've had this week, we are looking at continuing to celebrate at least the World Patient Safety kind of month of September. We are looking at some publications in the daily electronic press. We have a few posters that we are thinking of delivering. So keep your eyes out on this. As I say, remain vigilant. You will get them all on these social medias as well. So with that, I have the honor and privilege to invite Mr. Willy Soriney. Willy is our chairman at KAPI. He works with Pfizer, a US-based premier multinational biopharmaceutical company, as the director for strategic partnerships. And he's a tenured professional in the pharma industry with, I would say, very rich experience from leading biopharmaceutical companies. Thank you, Willy. And the floor is yours. Please take us through KAPI's views and commitment on today's call for action. Thank you. Willy, you are on mute.
All right, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry for that. I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. And Jayesh and the Pharmacovigilance Committee, thank you very much for the work that you have done in putting together this series of discussions looking or focusing on the patient and general healthcare worker safety. And this is an event that is of a global nature. And the value of this is when you step back and remind yourself that when you are talking of a patient, you are not talking of a third party. You are individually a patient in one time or another. So safety basically implies safety of everyone in the society. And therefore, that's the reason why it carries such a severe magnitude. I want to thank the KAPI member companies for the commitment and focus they've put into safety, not just today, but all through the years. And it makes a lot of sense that KAPI is a voice, a global voice in discussing or talking or disseminating issues relating to patient safety. I have only one slide to present today. And I know Jayesh has given a brief about me. That photograph was taken 52 years ago. And I'm flattered that I used to look that polished when I was young. The years have gone. I've lost a lot of the black hairs, but I've gained a lot of experience and knowledge, especially relating to healthcare, and I'm always happy and eager to share that with anyone. My discussion today will not dwell so much on the healthcare worker safety per se, but it is in general patient safety, recognizing that everyone is a patient at one time or another, or each of us has a person or an individual we're providing care to. So let me share my screen, hoping I can manage to do that. And as I'm doing that, if I ask a few questions, first question, to everyone, what comes to mind when you hear the word whatever that is. Let's call it chlorine. No, not chlorine, chloroquine.
Chloroquine,
Yes.
hydroxychloroquine.
What comes to mind when you hear the word chloroquine? And the second question is, are you comfortable, or will you be comfortable consulting a herbalist for health needs? Just think about it. If today you get up from your desk and you head towards, you look for a healthcare specialist, will you be comfortable consulting a herbalist? Now, can you see my screen?
Not as yet. Yes, now we can.
Okay, so I am going to discuss about it using someone happily wrote Trump when you talk about chloroquine. But the reason I asked that question is everything that KAPI member companies do is rigorously validated. And that rigorous validation is to achieve a limited number of dimensions that are core to the practice of healthcare using pharmaceutical products, which one is the safety. Is it safe? The second one is, can it do what it should do in terms of curing that which we want to cure? And the third one is, does it have diverse impact or effect on different sets of people? So we fully get to understand it all. Now, on the matter of consulting a herbalist, I personally would not mind consulting the herbalist, but I would like to see data that really quantifies and qualifies their activities and their products, that standardizes what they do, so that if I go from herbalist 1 and who tells me to put a black rope on the ground and jump it and I will be cured, herbalist 2 shouldn't tell me put a blue rope and jump over it. Should be standardized and the effect should be the same. That is the hallmark and the blueprint of science: standardization, qualification, and quantification. That defines for you, listeners and colleagues, what KAPI members do. The genetic makeup of the KAPI member companies is to run their operations as scientifically as possible, with the end result being cure disease, but keep the patient safe. And second to that, cure disease, but be mindful of the person providing the service to the patient, so that there is no damage to that person, there is no impact to that person, there is no negative safety situation on that person. I put this slide here, this continuum here, the pharma value continuum, the things we do. And for anyone who is not in the industry, these are the things we do. And each one of them has safety as a cornerstone. So day one, we find ourselves now in a COVID landscape. Nobody knew about COVID prior to this. So we are all rushing to understand the disease. This is now at stage 1. Understand the disease. How does it affect the body? We do thorough research there. Know the disease, know the disease-causing agent, know the human body. How does the human body respond to that? So that the objective here is to design a solution which will keep the patient safe from the disease. The intention is cure the disease. But as we are curing the disease, we move to the next phase and say, yes, this treatment or this chemical can cure the patient or can treat the patient, but will it by itself kill the patient? So let's move to level 1. If you take any insecticide in the market, take a high quantity of it, swallow it, chances are it will cure COVID. But the problem is it will fail phase 1. It will kill the patient as well. So safety can never be decoupled from the science of curing. Once the product goes through phase 1 and 2, which is basically assessing the physiological impact and safety again, we take it to phase 3 and scale it up. Now you're no longer testing it on hundreds of people, you're now testing it on thousands of people, given the dynamics of the disease you're looking at. You have seen in the current debates, many of the companies and majority of them, if not all of them, are members of KAPI locally and members of the KAPI global affiliate, that is the IFPMA. They are going to phase 3 trials now of the COVID vaccine. And they are required to recruit not less than 40,000 people in the population, the trial population. Reason there is, we know that the vaccine is eliciting a good immunological reaction. That is, it can produce an immunizing effect. But the problem is it safe? And one person claiming to be, I am very fine, I've done very well, is not enough. 200 people is not enough. 4,000 people is not enough. You need up to 40,000 or thereabout to be able to tell that for all shades of human beings, the young, the old, the female, the males, the various diverse global human communities. Once you put all of them there, you can effectively say this medicinal product is safe to use and effective against the disease. From there now, it can be released by the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers are the health regulators across the globe, and they do not depend on anything other than the science. So if you are a Trump, and I'm not saying anyone is a Trump, and in this case, a Trump is a fictional character. If you are a Trump, you cannot claim that the chloroquine is great and wonderful. I've been using it for so long, and therefore it is good. No, it still has to go through the gates of the regulators. Locally, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board is our gate that ensures that every medicine that goes into the health system meets the required global standards and local standards. You cannot make a claim outside of the scientific standards. So we pass the gate, and the product now goes into practice. And when discussing now the business practice of the KAPI member companies, their business practices are structured and tailored again to safeguard the patient safety and the general healthcare worker safety. This is now when we start incorporating very bullishly the healthcare handler of the products. And you would not find anywhere on earth a KAPI member company without standard operating procedures that are very clear on patient safety and healthcare worker safety. We stipulate those in black and white, and those are organizational rules that are implemented by everyone without exception to ensure that the use of our medicines is both safe, driven by quality, driven by handling, driven by administration by the administrator. So all those operating procedures are designed with the mind of ensuring the patient is safe. And then, as all of you are aware, and maybe people who are not in the industry, we are guided by a code of ethics, a code that defines the most appropriate moral and ethical way of presenting our medicines and our behaviors within the healthcare system, so that nobody is harmed as a result of our negligences or omissions or even commissions. We are bound together by a code of ethics that supersedes our commercial and profit desires. And then we complement that with the trainings. And in this case, we incorporate healthcare workers as part of our trainings to ensure that the handling and administration of medicine doesn't pose a risk to the healthcare worker, but at the same time doesn't pose a risk to the patient. In other words, the scientific model that started from phase 1 is still running all the way and being obeyed so that the right results are guaranteed, no harm is incurred, either for the healthcare worker and for the patient. Sometimes we equip healthcare workers as well, and sometimes we even go as far as equip the patient. Consider a situation where a patient is using insulin. Will you be happy for them to go randomly to any shop and buy any syringe and just inject themselves? Unfortunately, if you do that, you have let go of your custody of the environment that ensures the patient is well served. So in many instances, KAPI member companies also provide user equipment for the medicines that are prevailed, for especially chronic cases or technical situations. That is to enhance the efficacy and also to enhance the safety of the patients. And across that, we now make partnerships across the board to ensure that the things we say we will do and the things we do match and go in synchrony so that the society is safe, the society is cured or treated, and no one is harmed or damaged. And in all of these, you can see I do not have a presentation that is university thesis or a research type of presentation. I'm just telling you matter of fact realities of what the member companies do. And when you listen to it, you'll realize that safety runs across our entire operations, right from research all the way to the business operations. And I'll stop at that now, hoping that I have made our listeners understand, and even KAPI itself, understand and rededicate more effort and design a way forward to obey and pay more fidelity to the things we've been doing to ensure and enhance safety. Now, I'll give about 2 minutes or 3 minutes for a question or two that may arise because I may step out of the meeting earlier than scheduled.
Thank you, Mochache, for that. So I open up to anyone who would have a quick question for Willy. Please use the chat function that's a part of this webinar so that we can have these recorded as well. But maybe as we get somebody typing in, Willy, the fact that you're leaving, to you, is health worker safety any different from patient safety? How do you look at this?
Actually, healthcare worker, that's a great question, Jayesh. Healthcare worker safety is not any different from patient safety. Remember, on one hand, a healthcare worker may themselves be a patient in one dimension or the other. But the important thing about healthcare workers is they are at the junction of health services provision. When you sit at the junction, you receive all shades of needs that arrive at your desk. A person comes in with TB, another one comes in with COVID, another one comes in with something else. You run a risk of being left with all those gifts that passed by your desk. They are not nice gifts, they are nasty gifts. And therefore, the healthcare worker safety is more magnified because if that healthcare worker goes down because of one disease or a situation, then the entire health system is at risk of unraveling because the healthcare worker is at the center of operationalizing the healthcare system. Now, that needs to be understood by both the patient and the policymakers, and also the healthcare worker. If a healthcare worker is sitting on their desk and they do not practice the basic preventive measures, now, this is not the right time to not to wear a mask in a clinic. If a healthcare worker decides not to wear a mask, that is opening themselves up to harm very quickly. If, on the other hand, the government pushes the healthcare worker and compels the healthcare worker to go in an unsafe environment, that will harm the healthcare worker and break down the health system. And on the other hand, if the patient comes in and disobeys every provision that is meant to safeguard the healthcare worker, that will hurt the healthcare worker. And shortly, before long, there will not be any healthcare worker and the whole system collapses. So as I started by saying, safety for the healthcare worker and the patient is not different. It is just that the healthcare worker, by sitting at the health provision junction, is at a much, much magnified risk to any health-related issues, and all people must play to support the safety of that healthcare worker, including the pharma companies when necessary to provide equipment, to provide training, provide awareness, provide remote working activity resources so that we diminish anything that may happen to the healthcare worker.
Sure. No, very important and rightfully said. Thank you. Thank you, Willy. Willy, I don't see any questions so far, but I would urge try and be with us as long as you can. But I would like to move on to our next presenter. And if you can stop presenting, then I can take over the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for flagging us off. And right, am I now on the right screen? So thank you all. So I would take this pleasure to introduce a very good friend as well as a mentor, Dr. Karanja. Dr. Francis Karanja is the Regulatory Affairs Cluster Head for GSK for Africa. He has a wealth of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, having worked for GSK for over 20 years in several roles, including sales and marketing, quality, medical, clinical, pharmacovigilance, and regulatory affairs. So one colleague definitely who has a 360-degree view. Francis is also a board member for KAPI. So he works in the same team as Willy. And also that he's a board member for the KHF, Kenya Healthcare Federation, contributing to shaping the Kenyan regulatory environment. Francis is a registered fellow pharmacist with a master's degree in pharmaceutical medicines from Hibernia College in Ireland, and is also a certified clinic research associate. So Francis, great pleasure. Thank you for honoring our invite, and the floor is yours. And take us through that, you being a technical expert in the industry, as well as KAPI member, your thoughts and how do you see us going forward in this whole topic of patient safety as well as health worker safety? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jayesh, for that very warm welcome. I'm really pleased to be here. I would like to share my screen, and just let me know once you are able to see my screen.
It's loading. Now we can.
Great. So I thought of just putting together a couple of slides to really just shape the discussion and look at this very important day. As Jayesh has rightly said, it's a key day for us in the industry. In that, sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. It's a key day for us because it's a day when we recognize that we are all patients at some point or the other. Sorry, could someone mute the mic? Thank you. Yeah, so being the World Patient Safety Day, I thought of just spending a couple of minutes talking about patient safety with the aspect of how are we contributing to that? What do we do as KAPI? So important to note for KAPI is that we also have some objectives around this. And one of the key objectives as KAPI is to ensure access to first-class quality medicines by clinicians and patients where needed in all regions, and also to, very key, as even Willy had stated earlier, to educate and train users on the appropriate use of these medicines. We also want to act as the voice of the industry, working in collaboration, with the regulators, health authorities, pharmacists, clinicians, and all other stakeholders to foster this enabling environment to deliver quality healthcare. Now, just moving to the next slide. Again, is to also improve the welfare of the industry by working hand in hand with the regulators, to ensure the laws and guidelines that are enacted will really allow access to these highest quality medicines and vaccines, and where we look at the three key aspects: quality, safety, and efficacy, so that we may benefit the Kenyan patient. Now, so for me today, my core call and thing we probably want to take away is that let's always find patient safety first. Let's look at it as the key determinant of any decision we make. And once you put the patient at the heart of every decision you make, it makes it very easy in terms of how you carry yourself forward and how you make your decisions. So what is patient safety? I'll just quickly touch on that. Basically, it's this sustained proactive process to identify, avoid, and rapidly resolve errors, omissions, mishaps, and miscommunications that could affect a patient's healing, health, or well-being at any point, at any time, and in any care setting. So it's quite broad and far-reaching when you look at it from this perspective. But what we are trying to say is that there are certain domains which will guide the safety of a patient from the point of the time they feel unwell and the point they seek health treatment, and to the point in which they are healed and are back home or in the safety of their families. So I'll just very quickly talk about these 6 domains, as you can see on the slide, starting with the information safety, communication safety, medication safety, diagnostic safety, treatment safety, environmental safety. So what we are trying to do is say that safety is not just about you taking medicines and getting better or not. There's so much that goes into a patient's safety. And so there are 6 international patient safety goals, which I'll quickly touch on. First one, on information safety. When a patient comes to any healthcare facility, they need to be identified correctly so that you have accurate medical records. So that's why usually they'll come with a prescription, say if it's a pharmacy, or if they go to a hospital, a medical record will be open for them. This is critical because if you made a mistake of, for example, giving medicines for Francis Muigai Karanja, and there are 10 Francis Karanjas, and you happen to give to the wrong patient, and you could be calling out Francis Karanja in the patient room, and 3 people respond. How will you know which is which? So you have to give them some unique identifier and something that will make sure that you do not mix up the patients and end up causing great harm to them. Communication safety is really about, sharing relevant real-time information to all interested parties, especially to prevent the handoff communication. A good example here is like when you're doing a shift a change, for example, in a hospital, you obviously want to make sure that the new person coming to the shift has all the information they need to treat that patient. And so again, the key is to prevent wrong information.
Okay, thank you.
We have someone who needs to mute the line, please.
Yes.
Would someone please mute the line? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so I was saying that handoffs can cause a lot of errors, especially in patient safety. And communication is not only entirely looking at within the hospital or the healthcare setup, but even with the patients. So you need to really give proper communication on what you are doing to the patient so that they can also offer their opinion and even tell you maybe, hey, you've given me this orange pill and I've been taking a blue one all this time. So is there a problem? And then you could actually prevent a medication error. And that goes to the next step, which is on medication safety. How do we improve this safety? The key thing is to do the 5 rights. This is from the time a patient gets into a hospital or clinical setup to the time they get their medicine. So you have to have the 5 rights. Right patient, receiving the right medication, at the right dose, in the right route, and at the right time. All these are things I'm sure you all as an audience are familiar with. But you imagine if you miss out on one of these steps, you could end up with even deaths or very severe adverse reactions or events due to wrong usage of medicine. from or the test from, or again, wrong patient, obvious, and wrong procedure in surgery. So you must gather and interpret the data that supports optimal patient care planning and treatment. Treatment safety is really around reducing the risk of healthcare-acquired infections, accurate capture, recording, executing, and sharing of data to support patient safety. This is key because some of the most difficult treatments, infections to treat are the ones which we acquire in hospitals, or what I know has been a cause of a great antibiotic resistance, for example. Last but not least is around the environmental safety, reducing the risk of patient harm that could result from falls or any other injuries. The safety of the environment is key, and all the staff need to be well trained, and the equipment that is used to make sure that they do not fall into any harm. So I'll just quickly jump to the next slide and ask, how do we do this? How do we ensure patient safety? Again, just to kind of summarize what I had presented earlier, you must have the correct patient identification. You must collaborate with the patient, engage your patient so that they are fully versed in the treatment that they're receiving, and they're well able to add any influence on how they're treated. I think many of you may remember a few years ago when many hospitals or pharmacies would just simply write 1 times 2 on a sachet for medicine, and you don't know whether it means 1 twice a day or 2 once a day or 1 in every 2 days. It's very unclear, and you could end up with patient errors. So that's common with the medication errors. And how do you remove that? By a proper labeling of medicines, for example. Again, just to reiterate what I'd said earlier, eliminate the wrong site, wrong patient, and wrong procedure through proper documenting of the patient journey. Controlling hospital-acquired infections is critical, as I'd said earlier, and the rest are very typical to any hospital setup. What I added here, which I feel is something that needs to be done, is also reporting of these adverse events and learning from them. It's not enough to just report near misses and incidents. You also need to do some analysis, and there are many tools which you can use, some risk management tools that you can use after the fact, so that you can do a root cause analysis, using fishbone diagrams, the 5 whys, to find out what is the root cause of why we have all these issues. Maybe it's just some pharmacist who has poor eyesight and has been writing the wrong information on the label, or the doctor is writing the wrong name of the medicine. Simple things like that that could cause so much harm to the patient. Once you identify them, obviously you can correct the root cause. Last but not least is, I think, a desire that has been on my mind, that I don't know how often this is captured in many hospitals, but there's need to train patient safety officers and equip them to be in all hospitals. I've seen some countries like the US, we have nursing training institutions that offer certification for patient safety and officers. And these guys are very crucial in that they look at every aspect of a patient's journey and identify risk and even issues that may arise from taking care of those patients, and are able to address them. Right, so let's quickly touch on health worker safety, which is also another factor as we celebrate World Patient Safety Day. One thing I realized is that there were guidelines which are being posted on the MOH websites called the Occupational Safety and Health Guidelines, which were, I think, produced in 2014. What I don't know is really how much they have impacted the entire, healthcare fraternity. Maybe someone on the call could advise, but I think maybe there's need for retraining on this if they have not been done so, and ensuring they are widely disseminated. They have quite a lot of guidelines for health workers on how to protect themselves in a hospital or healthcare sector. Based on the WHO World Patient Safety Day website, you can actually also find a lot of great checklists which you can use to, if you have a healthcare facility, to really list down all your safety features and measures and see whether there's need for improvement. For me, I also think that training on proper use of PPEs, especially in this COVID-19 era, is critical. And also IPC, which means infection prevention and control methods. This needs to be really done. It's not enough to provide PPEs, but you need to train the health workers on how to use them so that they use them effectively and they prevent the risk of infection and cross-contamination. I think I mentioned earlier about healthcare safety officers, but also in medical institutions, we need to have health and safety committees that look at all aspects of the patient journey and also the health worker journey, so that safety is always at the heart of every decision they make. Around regulation, because that's my bread and butter and what I wake up to every day, it's really important that the regulators like KEBS and PPB, they need to enact very clear guidelines on, and stringent testing of all PPEs, and even classifying as medical devices where needed, and approving them from reputable suppliers. The next part would be around even allowing regulation for emergency use authorization of any new critical intervention. For example, in a pandemic situation, we've all been hearing the talk around remdesivir and many other products. What I don't know is whether they are very stringent or good guidelines to make sure these medicines can't be availed in a country like Kenya. Last but not least, I really wanted to bring this out because I know this is a big pain point in Kenya at the moment, where we've been having, a lot of briefcase importers bringing in substandard goods, especially PPEs in this COVID pandemic. One thing that could be used to prevent this, and actually has worked in other countries, is ensure that the regulators will only allow importation from listed exporters or accredited suppliers. And one of the suppliers that are being listed by a Chinese organization called the National Medical Products Administration, or there's even a white list of certified suppliers that can be supplying these PPEs, for example. And if KEBS and PPB would actually do this, I think it will really help to prevent some of the challenges we've been seeing in our space, where people are bringing in all manner of PPEs. We don't know the quality, we don't know how good they are, or whether they've even been tested, and unfortunately, they're able to get them into the market. And this is really impacting the health worker safety. So without going into too much detail because of time, I'll leave it at that for now, and I'm happy to take any questions, maybe at the end towards the end, so that I give the chance to the other presenters to talk. So thanks, Jayesh, and that's me for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Very interesting indeed. And yes, always a good reminder that cross collaborations with everyone makes a world of a difference. So, no, thank you for bringing that up and bringing in the perspective of regulatory authorities. Asante. So let's move on. I think we are doing well. So I would like to take up and invite our next speaker. This is Dr. Felix Mochache. Felix is a registered pharmacist, again, a close friend of mine now, and he is the Patient Safety Group Manager for East and Southern African countries at Novartis. He doubles up as the qualified person for pharmacovigilance for Novartis in Kenya, and he has previously worked as the quality assurance as well as regulatory affairs pharmacist. So with his experience, Felix, karibu sana, and really going down to what the theme for today is, you as our pharmacovigilance person who does this on a day-to-day basis, tell us something from your perspective. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jayesh. Really, it's a great introduction from you and a great honor to be able to speak to all my colleagues on the line today. So a great has been going on over the week, and just something that I've noticed is we are really insisting so much on regulations and looking out for the quality of the products that are out there. So I'll also point out some few issues here and there to do with regulations. And then at some point, I'll give my own experience in regard to health worker safety, having worked in government for a few months before jumping over to the private sector. So I will share my screen. I hope you all can see my slides.
It came briefly and went. Yes, now we can see.
Yes, so I'll do more of talking than using the slides because my senior colleagues have done quite a lot on some of the topics that I wanted to touch on. So about regulations, so in our setup or in our countries within East Africa and Southern Africa regions, I can say we have among the best regulations. But then usually what I see or have realized is that challenges come in to do with the implementation of the guidelines or the regulations that we have. So for instance, Kenya, I think in the region has got the best pharmacovigilance regulation when we compare to the other three countries, that is Uganda and Tanzania. It is much more comprehensive. And I believe if you were to go by whatever is in the regulation, then for sure, some aspects of safety to our patients and health workers will be guaranteed and will not be coming up in discussions now and again. So, for instance, when I look at the Kenya regulation, that is the PPB guideline, in reference to the story of the PPEs and other health technologies products, simple measures like adherence to risk management plan implementation will protect and reduce exposure of healthcare workers to certain risks. Because as we all know, even device use can pose some dangers to us, okay, as HCPs. And the risks can be reduced by proper implementation of some of these aspects like the risk management plans that are within the regulations, like the one in the PV regulation for Kenya. Again, also looking at the regulations, simple actions like having a responsible person, such as the regulatory affairs pharmacist or the QPPV at each and every company that deals with these technologies will help avert some of these risks. Because I'm trying to imagine of a scenario, I'm a pharmacist and I'm authorizing a product which is of substandard or poor quality to go out there into the market. That will be against my sworn oath to taking care of the patients and ensuring their well-being. So ideally, all companies that are dealing with health technologies and products should not operate without meeting the minimum requirements specified in the guidelines. If you are able to institute just some of these measures and implement them according to the way they are stipulated in the guideline, I'm sure we'll have reduced some of these incidences that we are talking about and have been up in the media now and again. The other issue that my colleagues also have touched on is on qualification requirements. So especially during this time of the pandemic, the question that I ask myself, is it the right time to relax, or is it the right time to strengthen the qualifications requirements that we have? And when I talk about qualification requirements, I'm referring to both the qualification of the products and technologies that are out there and the qualification of even our healthcare manpower, or the release of healthcare workers out there into the market. So with the pandemic, people are suffering. We have patients being infected each and every day. So what will it mean for us again to release products and technologies out into the market which have not met the minimum standards as stipulated by our health authorities? So are we bowed actually to the pressure of the pandemic such that we've allowed commodities from non-qualified vendors, including human capital? So that is the question that I'm constantly asking myself. So, and if indeed we've decided to relax the measures at this time, then it means we are going to have more patients succumbing to the pandemic, and that will follow the healthcare workers as well. So we are going to have more of them succumbing to the pandemic instead of these products being in the market being of help to them. So it is important that we ensure that the regulations are implemented to the letter, especially at this time. Then also just to touch on the contribution of the healthcare workers at this time. Sometimes I think and feel like as healthcare workers, we become captives of the bystander effect. I think we all know the bystander effect, whereby you expect another person to be taking action to help a colleague or a patient who is in need. And we all end up assuming that person A will do it and person B will do it, and nothing else is done after all. So the patient ends up being a victim, and we may lose the patient at the end of it all. So sometimes as healthcare workers, we become victims of the bystander effect in one way or the other, whereby we could be knowing of an issue with a product which is in the market, and we assume that the health authorities is aware, which is not the case. Yet the health authorities act based on the data that comes onto their desk. So we also have a responsibility as healthcare workers, especially those who are on the line and not from, not part of KAPI as members. So we need to be proactive in reporting all cases of these product-related issues that we suspect, because the health authority will rely on the data that gets into their desk to make a decision on either to withdraw the product or to ask the manufacturer or supplier to do something about it. So in regard also to our contribution as healthcare workers, we have also in our guidelines a special requirement that sort of is supposed to help us take care of ourselves. So there is the reporting usually of occupational hazards as part of the special case scenarios. Of course, it may not be an adverse event, but it could be a special case. It is a special case scenario that usually requires to be reported to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. So we do encounter occupational hazards in our practice in one way or the other. So I may be a nurse and I could be injecting some medicine to a patient, and then the needle breaks. So that poses some danger to me. Do I go ahead to report that kind of incident? So these occupational hazards, if reported to the health authority, will also guide in coming up with measures of ways of preventing them. Okay. Then now that it is a call to action today, as we've been having the series of meetings from the week, so how can we overcome some of the challenges that we face as healthcare workers? And I'll do this by giving my own experience some time back. As I said, I've been a pharmacist with government for some time. But then when I was doing my internship back in 2016, I remember there was a doctor strike. It was about in January, if I'm not wrong, sometime in 2016. So there was a doctor strike, and I was an intern by then. So in the conduct of my duties within the hospital, I sadly became a victim of the gift that Willy mentioned before he left. So I sadly contracted TB, and I remember it was a tough time for me. And for a long time, I was in denial. I was not able to accept that indeed I've become a victim of the disease that I'm trying to manage, to help patients manage. So it took a long time for me to accept and to start taking the medication as required. So as healthcare workers, we can be victims of the diseases that we are trying to help patients manage, just like I was. So that is why I'm saying in my slides that it is okay not to be okay. So we are exposed just because we've decided to contribute to the well-being of the society or the community. But then, yes, it's okay not to be okay. But if you're not okay, how can you overcome as a healthcare worker? So most of the healthcare workers, once they contract such kinds of infections like TB, and I'm sure even for COVID-19, they will most likely go to denial, and the consequences of going into denial are not so good. So some of them include depression and other mental disorders. So then what are the solutions to such kinds of problems that these healthcare workers could be facing, just like I did? So one thing that we fail to realize is that just like in military institutions or with our military colleagues, you realize that their special needs require them to have their own military police because their profession is sort of different from, or in many ways, has changed their nature of life and the way they interact with us. So it is the same thing that happens to healthcare workers. So our profession sort of may force us to modify our behaviors in one way or the other. So the kind of solutions that should be sought whenever a healthcare worker contracts an infection or any other occupation related illness, they should be tailored to a healthcare worker. So that is why in my slide, as you can see, I'm saying counseling, yes, but is it targeted? Is the counseling that will be provided to that healthcare worker going to be to really take care of the challenges that they are facing? Because yes, they know the disease in detail, and even they know the medication that they could use to cure their disease. But then there are so many other surrounding factors around this particular patient who is a healthcare worker that they may force them or make them not comply to the treatments. So if we're talking about counseling, then I believe it should be targeted and have particular individuals who are qualified to handle counseling for healthcare workers. And that will help really in ensuring that we are not losing any healthcare worker, especially during this time of the pandemic where we need all of them to be at their best. Then the other bit is a little bit about financial protection or compensation. Just drawing back to my example, but then I was an intern. Yes, I'm sure I contracted TB from the conduct of my routine duties. But then, was I compensated? No, I was not. And how did, what was the effect of that to me? In a way, I was demotivated. I will not have the psyche to really want to work in a healthcare setting whereby I'm interacting with the patient directly because of the experience that I went through. It's only with time that I'm able to accept that indeed, yes, it can happen to healthcare workers, and I can go back in case it demands me to go back. So when it comes to compensation or financial protection, are we taking care of the healthcare workers who contract the disease and in one way or the other are not able to take care of their needs because of having contracted that particular disease? Then another one, just a challenge to our professional associations, is about professional support groups. So what are we doing as associations just to support these HCPs or healthcare workers who may be facing these particular challenges or who may have become victims or, of the pandemic or victims of the medical products or health technologies that they are using? So I will be comfortable being counseled or engaging with my colleagues whom I know at some point could also face the same issue, rather than talking to a counselor or somebody else whom may not be really very much familiar to whatever I'm facing deep down my heart. So I would be happy to have professional support groups within our associations, such that if it is a nurse who's befallen or been a victim of the technologies or the pandemic or the other diseases or infections that they might contract within the conduct of their duties, it will be good to be talking to their colleagues, to have a group who are qualified to be able to support or counsel their colleagues. So then just to finish off, are we going to be proactive or reactive to the various issues that come up within the industry? So just from the lessons that we can derive from the pandemic, we need to have health systems strengthening as part of the focus to all to the industry, such that they can also be able to advise and push the government towards health system strengthening. Because we've seen the need during the pandemic, whereby there was a sudden panic, sort of, to even hire healthcare professionals, just because the workforce was not sufficient to take care of the population. So if we had done it earlier enough, then some of the risks will easily be averted. We'll not have HCPs working long hours, such that they expose themselves to contracting the infection. We'll have much more shifts and reduce risks to each of the healthcare workers. Then also inclusion of experts in the development of health policies and strategies should come in, whereby if you are talking about curbing substandard of poor quality products in the market, who is going to come up with that policy? Who are going to come up with those strategies? Who are we including in that working group? We should be having proper people qualified who are experts in particular areas, such that whatever strategies they come up actually work and will be geared towards ensuring patient safety and the safety of our patients. So thank you all. That is all I had for today. Thank you, Jayesh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Felix. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. It does shake somebody up when you put it across that way, and something that's very true. We can imagine what's happening out there with people treating the other diseases. So I personally also like the fact that you brought up the truth that regulatory authorities really can only act on the information that we provide, that we as healthcare workers outside who are facing problems, if we keep complaining that this PPE or this syringe is a problem but never really report, then we really can't blame the authorities. And likewise, same for the medicines that our patients consume, holds the same, that if the patients do not complain, then how can we further strengthen the safety and efficacy of these medicines? So, no, thank you. Thank you very much for putting it across. Let's keep the questions coming in. Again, a reminder, please send them via the chat function. And with that, I would take this opportunity to invite the last panelist for the day. And this is none other than Mr. Richard Cizungu. Mr. Richard is the Executive Director for EPN, Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network. He's holding a bachelor's degree with honors in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of Kinshasa, an advanced diploma in humanitarian logistics from ISSDRC. Richard, please tell us what that is when you start, and a postgrad certificate of management from Cumbria University. He has a wealth of experience in the pharmaceutical sector, having worked with various organizations to improve access to safe, quality assured and effective pharmaceuticals to patients who need them. With that, welcome Richard, and also tell us what EPN is doing in this theme that we have for this year, health worker safety for patient safety. Asante sana, karibu.
Thank you, dear Jayesh, and greetings to all the participants in this very interesting panel. I'm happy to be part, and I thank KAPI for the invitation. It's really an honor for us as EPN. I'm going to show my screen. Can you allow me share the screen, please?
Yes, it's ready for you to share content.
Okay, just a few minutes.
Or if you are facing challenges, we can have David to support us. David?
Yeah,
great.
it's up now.
Great. Mr. Richard, is that the presentation?
Hello, Richard.
Oops, where have we lost Richard? Richard, can you hear us? Mr. Richard, can you hear us?
Looks like there's a disconnection on his end. He's dropped off.
He's trying to reconnect. Hold on,
Trying
let
to
me
come back,
admit.
yes.
Yeah, let's admit him. Hope it works now.
Hello?
Mr. Richard, welcome. You can hear us now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've lost
internet.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about, to share our experience as EPN in the topic of patient safety and
Oops.
Can you please move to the next slide, please?
David, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Who we are as EPN, just a few picture of EPN. EPN is committed to the provision of quality pharmaceutical services. EPN, we have 119 members in 38 countries, and our members are Church Health Association, faith-based organization, drug supply organizations, health institutions, and individuals. And you can see how our network is. We have members in Africa, 27 countries in Africa, and in Asia and Europe, and also in America. Next, please. Dr. Francis has already talked about the 6 international patient safety goals, and I'm going just to talk about the 3rd goal and the challenges related to the 3rd goal: improve the safety of high alert medications. Next, please. The 3rd WHO Global Patient Safety Challenge is that the goal is to reduce the level of severe avoidable harm related to medications by 50% over 5 years globally. And you are aware of this tool, Medication Without Harm, which was developed by the WHO and trying to give advice how countries should work to reduce the harm of medications. And next, please. The third challenge, the WHO has planned to provide 5 objectives, and to address this third challenge of medication, we need to assess the scope and nature of avoidable harm and strengthen the monitoring system to detect and track this harm, and also to create a framework for action for patients, healthcare practitioners, and leaders to facilitate improvements in the medication use process. But also, it's important to develop whatever necessary guidance, materials, technologies, tools to support the setting up of safer medication use systems for reducing errors. But also, it's necessary to engage different key stakeholders, partners, and industry to raise awareness of the problem, actively pursue efforts to improve safety. But you cannot talk about safety without be focused also on patients. We should empower also the patients, families to become actively engaged in decisions. You know, when it comes to the medications, we need really good dispensing to clearly explain the medicines, the side effects, so that the patient is really engaged also to take the medicines as required. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, this third global patient safety challenge related to the medication without harm, we have 4 domains and key actions which should be put in place. But I'm going just to talk about the medicines and the healthcare professionals on this in these discussions. Why? Because medicines are really important in the patient safety, but you cannot, even if you have good medicines, if healthcare professionals are not really trained and able to deliver in good way these medicines, you can't obtain the results. So I'm going to show briefly what EPN and its members are doing to address these two domains and the challenges related to the medicines to attain the objective of patient safety. Next, please. You know, how could we assess and catch the different areas in which we should support the 4 domains? First, we should really identify the high-risk situations. And you know that in the context, for example, of COVID-19, yeah, as the need of when the chloroquine was stated that it can be effective for the COVID-19, the demand of this product was raised in the world, even in Europe, and the Trump effect. You know how people took this as the good product, and now these criminals also, in such situations, they use these global demands to to include or to bring in the market the health systems, the non-qualified product and unsafe medicines. But also, you know, the polypharmacy, using too many different products, medicines by the patient, this also can be a risk. And that's why healthcare professionals should be really trained, especially pharmacy staff, to be able to detect where there are interactions which can harm the safety of the patient. Also, transitions of care from one clinician to another, or one department to another, or from the healthcare, primary healthcare to the hospital. At all these points, it's possible to face the risk of the safety of the patient. Next, please. Now, the key action areas which will be important is first we need a strong commitment. Prioritize also and take early action and effectively manage 3 key areas to protect patients. I was talking about high-risk situations, polypharmacy, and transitions of care. And 4 domains, I'm just going to focus on the 2 medicine and healthcare professionals. We can, next please. So as EPN, what are we doing to address the first domain of challenge related to the medicines? We have 3 strategies actually in use as EPN. We monitor the quality of medicines using the GPHF mini lab. And our member organization proceed by sampling from the health facilities, but also we have developed a material to help all health workers, clinicians, and pharmacy staff to perform an visual inspection when they have a product in a product in their hands. But also all suspicious medicines are sent to the mini lab for testing, and if it doesn't comply, we send to a partner laboratory, WHO pre-qualified, for further investigation. And then if it doesn't comply, then we work with our members to make an alert through the WHO. And also we share information among our member organizations, but also with the government, with the regulatory authorities for action. But also we really use also the partnership in action with other stakeholders. And we have a 3rd initiative, which is the East African Pool Procurement, which bring together 4 DSO, drug supply organizations of East Africa, MEDS here in Nairobi, GMS in Uganda, and BUFMA in Rwanda, and MEMS in Tanzania. Next, please. So our mini lab network, we have this mini lab expand in different countries in Africa. Actually, we have 18 partners in 12 countries. And all these partners are conducting testing. They are sampling medicine from the public or the private market, from our facilities, but also from the government facilities when it comes to collaboration with the countries in which our members are collaborating closely with the government in joint supervisions of health facilities. And all these members are every day, day to day, performing testing and collecting samples and sharing information where we find these falsified and substandard products. When, for example, in one country, like in Chad, we find some product, fake product or substandard product on the market. We share information with all the EPN members so that they can check whether they have the same batch numbers and product, and send them for testing to be sure that all our FC system is out of this trade of substandard products. Next, please. What's the mini lab? The mini lab is just and it's able now to perform tests of around 100 different API, and actually, yeah, this was the data of around 4 years ago. So we have 1,000 mini labs distributed in different countries by this initiative of Merck. Next, please. So we conduct physical and visual inspection. This is the very important step which allow our members to detect those products with just by physical inspection. They can verify the batch, the license number, address, product specification, authentic features. At this point, we have found most of our substandard products, which are collect from health facilities and the market. Usually at this point, we are able to find the suspicious NDs, which send to more investigation. We perform also disintegration tests and color reaction. This one, all the products which are found from the thin layer chromatography, this is what we make in advance, because the color reaction give just the confirmation, and we are not performing the color reaction among our member organization. So the TLC is able to really authentify that if the product is really there or not, if we have it in high or low or zero quantity in the drug. And after this, if the product doesn't comply, then we send it for full screening from a WHO pre-qualified laboratory. Next. This from our work, with the pandemic, we ask all our members to be very make attention and try to monitor the quality of medicines entering in the different health systems. And from April to May, we have found more than 10 different falsified products in different countries. You can see even one product which seems to have been produced by Dawa Limited in Kenya, but it was a fake. We come to Dawa to inform them, to ask if they manufacture this chloroquine. They've never manufactured chloroquine, but these criminals, they use the label to just sell a fake, a substandard product. And all these different cases was sent to WHO, and the alert number 4, you can find it from the website of the WHO, was done according to the work of our members. And it was found that this product was too many in the market in the different countries. The chloroquine was found in DRC, in Cameroon, in Chad, in Niger, in different countries in Africa, but not in Kenya. Not in Kenya. I was happy that with the presentation of our co-paneler, Mr. Felix, who said that the regulation and the pharmacovigilance in Kenya is really very well than in many other countries in Africa. That's really true. Next, please. So the other way of working, we partner for action with other organizations. In this mini lab initiative, we partner with a German organization which funds the sample, because we have to buy samples in the market, even from the other wholesaler pharmacies and stores. You cannot come and sample on your own. We try to buy samples, and this is found by one of our partners, who is DFAM, and we coordinate together this mini lab network. And when it comes to the DFAM, is the one who shared information with WHO, but also MEDS in Kenya with the pre-qualified laboratory, WHO pre-qualified, they perform the investigations on the samples which failed in the test from our members. So we send the samples in Kenya for testing. After this, then WHO can make the alert, because they cannot make the alert if the product was not tested by a pre-qualified laboratory. Next, please. Next. So the pool procurement initiative, which is coordinated by EPN, we try to collect the needs from our member organization so that we can make a joint supply of these PPEs and other products. And this initiative is really one of our core activity to help all our members implement best practices in supply chain, increase availability of medicines, but also to share experience so that those who are in a lower level relate to good distribution practices, but to be also empowered to perform what they are doing. But also we conduct joint audits of manufacturer, and this is the way of experience sharing, so that the one like MEDS and GMS who has reached the high level of good manufacturing distribution practices, they can share experience with other members. And also, the bringing together the DSOs is an opportunity for all of us to work in transparency when it comes to contract award decisions. But also, what we would like is to bring all our members in different countries to be able to join these initiatives, so that when you buy in pooled procurement, you benefit from the good prices and all these advantages. Next, please. So the second domain, which is really focused on healthcare professionals, EPN, we try to conduct research and share information, but also we develop some material which can help healthcare professionals and patients. Also, we provide scholarship to pharmacy staff with limited skills in pharmaceuticals. But again, we conduct different trainings on AMR, IPC, NCD management, and the essential of pharmaceutical practices for our members. So all our trainings are primarily focused on pharmacy staff development. Next, please. I'm going to bring you through our different publications. Every month, EPN, you can find in our website. Every month we try to share what our members are doing in what we call NetLink. NetLink is sharing stories of our members' organization in different countries. And we have the ePharma link, which is also published every 2 months. We make simultaneous publication of NetLink and ePharmaLink, which is a scientific publication where our members are sharing what they have, if they have conducted some studies, best practices, and we try to share this with other organization, member organization, so that we can share experience and build the capacity of each other. But we have also EPN forum and the PharmaLink, which is a paper publication, which we do every year. So from the time of the pandemic, we create a special page in all our publication where we try to give relevant information for all healthcare professionals, because we have too many sources of information actually, and would like our member to have the best information from our network. Next, please. So next, you'll find the publication we have done according to this threat of COVID, and we have published in American Journal what we have discovered on substandard medicines in DRC and Cameroon. But also, we are continuing to be different alerts done by WHO. You can find them, which are the result of our work. Next, please. Next. Yeah, in the Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Scholarship, we award scholarship to different students, and when they are back, they finish their studies, they come back in the facilities to try to improve the pharmaceutical system within the hospital. Next. Next. Yeah, the training we perform on NCDs, even in IPC, what we are doing with our member, the healthcare workers actually, is to try to support them by the training. We train the champions so that the champions can also go within the respective health facilities to train other health workers. So this is to avoid to prevent them and capacitate them in how to manage the pandemic. Lastly, please, next. And we are also preparing these trainings, online training, which we start in January in different domain of health care, so that all the hospital practitioners could be trained in one or another domain to be able to sustain their facilities in this context. Next, please. I would like also to call you to our next biennial forum, which will be in 2021, February in Nairobi. The last biennial forum was in 2018 on patient safety in Uganda, and next year will be in Nairobi on universal coverage road ahead for low and middle income countries and church health system. So these forums are also opportunity to share experience, and we invite even stakeholders from the industry, pharmaceutical industry, to share experience, and we'll have good topics on pharmaceutical in Africa. What should we do to be able to manage and to improve? Because actually we have shortage of drugs, and the continent is facing the shortage and the need to improve and to develop our pharmaceutical industry in Africa. Again, Kenya is an exception for Africa. Next and last. And I propose for way forward just 3 points: access to good source of information, continuous capacity building of healthcare professionals, and reinforcement and sustainability of the supply chain system and quality control of medicines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. Very elaborate, very interesting to see all the good work that EPN is doing. when you talk about the forthcoming courses, when you talk about conferences and where we are talking about pharmacovigilance, I'm sure within KAPI you will see a huge resource that will be able to support you. So please feel free, do reach out to us. I would be interested also in knowing how these e-learning courses are being deployed, and through KAPI, if we can take this forward, encourage many people to take part. I'm sure you are also aware that the Pharmacy and Poisons Board accredits and gives CPD points for such courses. So it would be good to reach out through the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya as well as the Health Authority to as wide pharma sector as possible, so that they all learn, because e-learning is going to be a major part of the way forward. But no, thank you very much. And just before we get into Q&A, we've got a very short time left now. But I encourage everyone to please use the chat function, send us the questions that you have, as we have a quick video to play on World Patient Safety Day. Thank you.
This looks like the intent.
Sound? Can you hear the sound?
It's breaking, David. Can you try again?
Now?
No, can't hear anything.
Let me just search a little bit.
David, maybe I could play it from my side.
That's okay.
No, David, it's not playing.
Let's stop the display so that Felix can share it from the other end.
Okay.
Is it playing?
Yes.
Where am I? This looks like the intensive care unit. What am I doing here? What happened to me? Hey, those are my colleagues.
It looks like we don't have enough masks, gloves and oxygen for tomorrow.
Not again.
Oh, hello, Sarah. How are you feeling now?
What's wrong with me? How did I get here?
I'm sorry to say you've tested positive for COVID-19. Don't worry. You're stable now. You're in good hands.
Now I remember. I got home after a 24-hour shift in the ward. I felt very unwell. I also remember arriving at the hospital.
It's been 4 hours already. How long are you going to keep us waiting?
Nurse, I have a serious problem here. My sister was given the wrong medicine. Please attend to her urgently.
I am sorry. Please, bear with us. We are doing our best.
Help! Can somebody help?
I recall being in the emergency room and overheard my colleagues talking.
This has been a very difficult time for all of us. Yet another colleague has fallen sick. This is really worrying.
We're also understaffed, and this is affecting the care we provide. But we must stay focused and motivated.
So, that's how I got here. Despite all challenges, my colleagues saved my life. We, as health workers, are committed to provide safe care to our patients. To do so, we need a safe working environment and adequate resources. We need a workplace where our physical and mental health matters, and one where we're not afraid to voice our concerns.
Superb. No, thank you. Thank you for playing that. It takes us straight to the theme that we've been talking about, showing our commitment as both KAPI as well as EPN. And for all those who are on the call, I mean, really good messages coming out from that video as well. So thank you for playing that. So as we wait for more questions to come in, I have a question for Mr. Richard. You talk about these alerts that you get through the mini lab tests that you deploy. Are these also shared with the health authorities, and are they published by the health authorities on a regular basis? Because one or two of them I kind of remember having received, but when we talk about alert number 4 and them, I'm somehow lost. Maybe if you can guide me on that, please.
Yeah, what we usually do when we find this substandard or falsified product, at the point of the mini lab, after they have tested, then we share the result with the regulatory authority so that they can even recall the product before, because the process to the full screening test from a WHO laboratory, it can take 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So in between, people will continue using the fake product. So we directly alert the authority, and from there, they take action. It can be quarantine the batch and start recalling all the batches where they can be found. At the same moment, we come to the laboratory. We inform the laboratory, because these criminals, they use sometimes the very good brands. And for example, this case of chloroquine with Dawa Limited, we shared the problem with Dawa, and they provide all the informations. And we ask them to write an official letter that they do not produce this kind of product. And all this, we collect all this information and we share with WHO, so that when the alert is done, this also make the industry, the manufacturer of the good product, away from the campaign of being manufacturing fake products. So we share the information with the regulatory, and even when the alert is done, we share again with the manufacturer, so that they can all be aware of the step in which we have moved in.
Sure. Thank you. Maybe I take this over to Francis. Francis, a question for you. I mean, looking at how EPN has been functioning and the kind of opportunities that they have laid out, I would have liked to ask this from our own chairman as well, but now that you are representing KAPI, how do you think we can raise our own bar at KAPI to take this up? What more can we do as KAPI to, you talk about medication errors. We are looking at examples over here. So what are your thoughts? How can we take this one step ahead?
I think that's a good question. I'll try and address it in the best way I know how, which is for me to collaborate internally to share, not necessarily, patient data or information, because, we all have our mechanisms for reporting, adverse events and falsified. But I think it's to share the information that can help us do quick investigation. I think, as Richard mentioned, if they identify a falsified product, they let a wide variety of networks know. Now, are we doing the same as KAPI? I believe we can do better. We've done it before, and if we did more of this, because, Jayesh, the source of these products tends to be the same. And globally, you're probably aware that there's a pharmaceutical network of all the within each company, the big companies, they have investigators who share a lot of information that help them to point out to the source, say, be it China or India. Now, if we did that locally, I believe it can go a long way in quickly, first of all, notifying the regulators and also informing our principal companies where this product is coming from, because we've seen it with, say, Pfizer and Novartis, and now most likely it will affect GSK or Bayer. So we should not assume we are swimming alone. We are in the same environment. Yeah.
True. Maybe now that you are at that, then your thoughts about preventing medication errors and how do we take this further for patient safety and health worker safety?
Okay, thank you. I'd alluded to some of them in my presentation, but it's a good question you've asked. For me, what I primarily feel we must do is change our culture, especially how medicines are dispensed in the country. I had talked about how, you get a sachet written 1 times 2 or, take after meals without any real information being given to the patients. One of the things which we could do to improve medication or reduce medication errors is, first of all, training the healthcare workers on proper labeling of medicines and even utilizing technology. I think in countries like the US and Europe, you find a lot of systems in place to prevent medicine errors, using barcode labeling and printers, which are connected to a software that, checks for drug interactions, lab software as well to prevent even medication errors. All those, automated mechanisms prevent the biggest factor in any system, which is human error. And human error, is the biggest cost of any, I would say, incident. If you look at even pilots, if you look at planes now, most of them can even almost fly themselves. That's because of technology. I think we need to utilize more technology than we've been in the past. And also just around preventing, sorry, there seems to be a background noise, preventing unauthorized use. Of course, we know many people are accessing medicine without prescription, so that's another thing that needs to be nipped in the bud together with the regulator. And removing quacks, because quacks are also the biggest cause of medication errors or poorly trained people. Yeah,
true. No, interesting. Thank you, Francis. Maybe over to Felix. Felix, you mentioned you are the qualified person for pharmacovigilance, right? In your view, the importance of a QPPV at this time, how do you look at that?
Thank you, Jayesh. So this is the time, I think, when the QPPV becomes very critical, in that when you look at the guidelines, there are some responsibilities and roles that have been assigned to the QPPV. And as per the guidelines, not only in Kenya, but even in our guidelines in the region, the QPPV is like the point of contact for the health authority for all safety-related matters, and is liable for any issues to do with the safety of the products of that marketing authorization holder that are out there in the market. So ideally, if you have a QPPV in a particular institution or particular pharmaceutical company, then it means there is somebody who is looking out for the patients, ensuring that the products that are going out into the market are safe and of utmost efficacious as per the specifications. So at this time, yes, a dedicated person. So this is the time when even those companies which have not implemented this requirement of the QPPV, I think should go ahead and do it, because it will also be a driver for them. It will help them comply, and not only even with the regulations, but internally, it will help them drive their goal of providing access to safe and efficacious medicines to the patients, because then there will be somebody having an oversight of whatever is going out there.
No, thank you. Maybe that brings me back to you, Francis. I mean, you can see, KAPI companies taking this up proactively when we talk about the role of a QPPV. To an extent, I believe this is, from the regulator side, preaching to the converted. We are here, we've got systems in place, we are working hard to enhance patient safety, and yet there are several generic companies, the parallel importers, who are absolutely having no second thoughts about patient safety. For them, the primary goal remains money. Then how is it that we can kind of take this up in a much proactive manner with our regulators to convince them the role of QPPV? If the guidelines say QPPV, then it should be across everybody at one go, so that we start. Your thoughts?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a very, very good question. I think it's good guidelines. How about enforcing them? And we are able to provide information to the regulator on really the number of QPPVs and when even there are gaps and pain points. And I believe if the regulator took up a stringent measure to ensure this is applied across the board, it would really help. We as KAPI can only make noise about it and try and lobby for implementation across the industry. But at the end of the day, the regulator has to do their bit to enforce this, because beyond that, we can only just talk about the issues, but without the role of the regulator, it's a bit difficult. But another aspect maybe to think about, which we could do, is how about engaging the public? What does the public know about how patient safety is managed from within the industry? So, when they see the face behind the counter, do they know how they can also, get that information to a regulator or an authority who can, give more analysis on how their medicines are affecting them? So maybe the patients need to also be engaged, the public awareness on making sure, commercial ukora, for example, if you're going to call it that, something that could help to, increase the valid use of, companies that are providing clear safety guidelines for their products, so that when a patient walks into a pharmacy, they know this medicine, there's a way in which they can contact either the company in case they have a problem, or even the regulator. So maybe we can take a two-pronged approach. Yeah.
Thank you. I notice we've reached the end of our webinar, but a very quick round to all three of you as we end and as we continue celebrating and creating awareness at our homes and with our families and friends about world patient safety and healthcare worker safety, as well as KAPI. Then my question to you all is, one day the pandemic will be over, right? God willing, one day the pandemic comes to an end. In your opinion, how will health worker safety change, right? And what more is it that we need to be doing for our healthcare workers? Maybe I start with Richard. A quick round, Richard.
Yeah, I think, on my opinion, the way we are moving, this will remain. This pandemic has shown really the gaps in healthcare workers' safety, and I think the different option which are taken now, even the quality of gloves, of PPEs, all the PPEs, even the standards have been defined clearly, and I think this will remain. This is one of the outcomes of this pandemic. I'm sure that it will really help. But also, as we have said, it's time to keep our healthcare workers always be trained. We need to make good program of continuous training of our healthcare workers, because it's only in this way that we can be sure that the patient are taking the good medication, are well trained. But lastly, I would like to say, we as EPN, we think it's also the time to build a database of manufacturer, because, and I think this will be interesting for KAPI. The East African Pool Procurement, we are working together to build our own database of manufacturers, so that we can clearly orient our countries, our members, where they can find the good product. And this is, as you say, regulatory authorities, you can make awareness, you can talk to the public, but at the end, the point of entry of medicine in their facilities is the healthcare worker, the pharmacy staff, the management. And when they are trained, they can really also, and providing good sources and good information, then I think this can be of benefit for all of us, you as industry and us as civil society and healthcare church health system.
Thank you. Felix, your quick comments.
Yeah, thank you, Jayesh. So the truth is that the issues that we are talking about currently, most of them actually issues. So they did exist even before COVID. It's only that COVID
Exposes them.
exposed those issues. So we'll expect even after COVID then, now that they're out there in the public, they've been magnified. We have our politicians, they are aware of them. We have the ministries of health being aware of those issues. So what we'll expect is a proactive handling of the issues, not waiting to be reactive. Another thing that probably I could say COVID has helped uncover is the use of technology, digital systems. So probably I do foresee lots of investment in telemedicine, and also even to the patient. I'm seeing a change in the way we take care of our patients, such that you see, the traditional way was that the patient coming to seek for healthcare, they are coming to look for the healthcare provider. But then now we are shifting to going to look for the patient wherever the patient is. Yeah, so there are various shifts which I think are going to change the ball game positively in future.
Thank you, Felix. Last one from you, Dr. Karanja.
Thank you. I'll also try and maybe sum up from Willy's perspective as the chair of KAPI. For me, it's very crucial that the health systems be strengthened. Felix has said that these issues existed before. This is an opportunity we now have post-COVID to really step back and look at the entire healthcare framework and see where we need to make changes. And it's not just a public sector exercise, it also means the private sector players like KAPI need to relook at how we are interacting with our patients, our HCPs, and see how best we can improve this. For sure, human resources for health, training must be intensified, as we've all, I think, said in one way or the other. Training of healthcare workers on, safety, how to prevent them from being infected, and all those things. I think for the regulator aspect, we need to look at how guidelines can be tweaked or improved to cope with future issues or pandemics like we probably might have in future, so that one, there's increased access to life-saving medicines and technologies, and very crucially to make sure that they cater for access to quality PPEs. So this should be a lesson for us that PPEs are something that should even be stockpiled at the national level, so that in a future emergency we don't face shortages. And I think for the patient, it's really around, we'll see a lot of change in the way they manage themselves, as Felix has said, and holistic, preventive methods of preventing them from being sick in the first place, and even using home-based treatments to ensure that they don't need to go to a healthcare facility. So we might see a big move to that, which is a good thing because it will reduce the burden on the healthcare system if people can prevent disease in the first place. So I think that sums up what I think we wanted to share, and I'm really grateful to you, Jayesh, and I'd like to commend all the participants and the moderators and of course the presenters as well. On behalf of Willy, who had to leave early, It's really a great honor to have been part of this World Patient Safety Day. Sadly, time was not with us, but would have liked to really come up with a strong call for action, which I believe we still can post this meeting, and we can share with the participants. So over to you, Jayesh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Francis. Much appreciate all the guidance and assistance that you at the Executive Committee are providing to all of us here at the PV subcommittee. My call to everybody, thank you all so much for all the time that you've spent with us. These are our social media handles, just to remind you on that. And as I close, it's been an absolute pleasure to have moderated this session for everyone today. I hope we all learned something. I hope there are some takeaway messages that we personally take with ourselves to share with the communities. And thank you to all the presenters. And Francis, one to the Executive Committee. One person I would like to really highlight is David Odhiambo, our, should I say, intern secretary, but absolutely marvelous the work that he's helped us with.
Yes.
From the start, from the time that we raised this thing to him and we said that we have thoughts around celebrating our second birthday, and he's been holding our hand through and through. So please kindly recognize all the efforts that he's done at the Executive Committee. And to you, David, asante sana. Thank you.
Asante, David. We'll definitely relay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thank you all so much. And just a parting shot, remember, you will get more and more items coming in the media as we celebrate this month, trying to create more and more awareness with the patients. At the same time, this 3 days proceedings have been recorded, and they will be made available on KAPI's YouTube channel as well. So keep your eyes out for that. Thank you all. Stay well, stay safe, and appreciate your support for KAPI. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Jayesh. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.